Did you know that by the time you turn 7, most of your core beliefs about life were already programmed into you? And here's the kicker, some of them weren't even yours to begin with. Some beliefs were passed down to you by your parents, teachers, society, and right now, this current day, those beliefs are shaping every single decision you make, whether you realize it or not. But what if I told you you can change them? That you're not stuck with the beliefs that you formed as a child. Today we're going deep into how your thoughts shape your beliefs, how your childhood programmed your mind, and most importantly, how to rewrite the beliefs that are holding you back. Part 1, the thought-belief connection. So to rewrite our current beliefs, we first have to understand how beliefs are formed in the mind. I'm going to first talk about the science, and then I'm going to give you an analogy to really help you understand the science. So just stick with me, okay? So here's the science. Studies in neuroplasticity show that the more you think a thought, the stronger the neural pathway becomes. And the strength of a neural pathway in your brain can be closely related to how strongly you believe that thought to be true. The more a particular neural pathway in your brain is activated, like by thinking about a thought over and over and over again, the stronger it becomes, leading to a stronger conviction or belief in that idea. So we already have these really strong neural pathways in our brains for negative thoughts. And turns out we actually have the power to change these neural pathways. We can create new neural pathways that are the opposite thought to this strong negative pathway that already exists. So my amazing therapist taught me an analogy that really helped me to understand neural pathways and how to actually rewrite them. So as I practice rewriting my own neural pathways, I am always thinking back to this analogy that she taught me. So I really want to teach that to you now. So I want you to picture a field or a meadow of wild flowers. Now I want you to picture a clear path going through those flowers. Someone has walked through that field of wild flowers many times, and the flowers have been squished to the floor, and it's created a really clear path through the field. That clear, strong path is your strong negative neural pathway or your belief. For years, you have been walking that path. You have been believing the same thoughts over and over again and have created a really clear path through the wildflowers. The path is your limiting belief. So what we want to do is create a new path in the field of flowers. And we do this by thinking a new thought that challenges the negative thought. So the first time we decide to walk this new path through the wildflowers, it's going to be hard and the path might not be very clear yet. But each day, over and over, you continue to walk this new path through the wildflowers. And over time, this new path through the flowers becomes clearer and stronger. And that old path, well, that starts growing new flowers. It becomes weaker. And over time, you can hardly see where that old path was. It's still there, but it's just not as strong anymore. This meadow of wildflowers is how you rewrite the neural pathways in your brain. It takes time, it takes a little bit of effort, but the more you do it over and over again, the more you will start to see change in your life, and then the more automatic that new thought will become. Part 2, how childhood programs your beliefs. So it's important to try to understand where your beliefs have come from so that you can challenge them if they are limiting you. Many of our beliefs come from childhood, and then the experiences throughout our lives may reinforce those beliefs, making them even stronger, or they might challenge those beliefs and encourage some sort of change. Childhood traumas or stressful events in childhood can lead to the formation of protective beliefs that, while helpful at the time, may actually be limiting in adulthood. So to illustrate this point, I will tell you a little bit of my own story and how it is likely that I developed the anxiety that I live with today. Heads up, I'm about to talk through a few things that caused me stress as a child. So if you have little ones that can hear this, now would be a good time to pause and get headphones. As a child, I went through and witnessed a few things that made me believe that the world wasn't a safe place to be. So then I carried these beliefs into adulthood, where I went on to live in daily fear and anxiety. So there were three key things from my childhood that for my whole life I have played over and over and over again in my head. So the first thing that happened was when I was 3 years old, there was a little boy at my school, a few years older, and he taught me how to swing on a swing. And he was unfortunately in a terrible accident and he passed away. And the accident involved being kind of crushed. And I remember hearing about it and everyone talking about it. Obviously, it was a huge thing that happened for all the children at the school, and it is one of my earliest memories as a kid. Then the second thing that happened was when I was a little bit older. I think maybe I was around 9 years old. I can't exactly remember. I then myself got into a really bad accident. I was at a school carnival and it was quite a windy day. And I remember I was running towards the ponies. We were going to go have a pony ride. And as I was running towards the ponies, one of the stages at the school collapsed and fell backwards, and it was being held up by scaffolding, and that fell on me and my friends, and we were hit and trapped underneath it, and apparently it took like 8 men to lift it off us. I personally now as an adult can remember just seeing the grass below me and remember seeing the white sheet above me and hearing screams and feeling so scared and wondering what was happening. And then I just remember waking up in an ambulance and my mum was there and I was in a neck brace and I was totally fine. All my MRIs showed really good signs, but I was vomiting in hospital all night. And then the last thing that happened was actually a movie that I watched when I was recovering from this accident. I spent a couple of days at home and I watched a movie, a midday movie, which I probably shouldn't have watched. And there was a awful accident in the movie as well, which involved an airplane and a husband losing his whole family. And that, I can remember the feeling of it. I can remember watching it. I can remember everything about that. And those are the 3 fearful memories I have remembered from my childhood that ended up coming into my adult life, where I, on a windy day, really struggle to leave the house, and I have really big fears of terrible accidents happening, particularly being crushed and something falling on my head. And it is something that I've been working on for quite a while with my psych, and I have made incredible progress with this, and it's all due down to how I've been rewriting the belief in my head. I also have a huge fear of airplanes flying over the house after watching this film that I probably shouldn't have been watching at a really young age. Recently, there was an air show in Sydney where those fighter jets fly over the house. And I remember I was in the kitchen cooking dinner for my son, and he was just happily playing with his toys in the living room. And one of the fighter jets was coming over the house, and I heard it. And within seconds, I was in fight or flight. I was crouched down on the kitchen floor with my hands over my head like this, and my heart was racing, and I felt like my heart was going to like fly out of my chest. And that was last year, and I've done a lot with my psych since then. And every day now I hear the airplanes flying over the house, not the air show airplanes, but just like regular airplanes. And then I continue to do this practice, which I'm about to teach you how to do. And over and over again, I've done it every time an airplane flies over the house. I practice this, and I've started realizing that I'm now noticing those airplanes flying over the house way less. I'm able to go outside on a windy day without thinking much about it anymore. So this technique has really changed my life. Like I still get little days where I'm not as good as others, but I can go back to this technique and keep using this practice in my life to eliminate that daily fear and anxiety. So let's move on to part 3 now, which is how to rewrite your beliefs. So there are 3 key steps to rewrite your beliefs. Step 1 is to identify the belief. Step 2 is to challenge the belief. And step 3 is to replace it with a completely new thought. So let's go over how you do that now. So step 1 is to identify the belief. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. So start by noticing your self-talk. What do you tell yourself about money, relationships, success. Write these things down. If you want to locate your limiting beliefs, I have created a list of journaling prompts to help you figure out what your limiting beliefs are. And that is free to download in the description below. You just have to sign up to my newsletter, which is really good. But you get access to all of my free downloads once you do that as well. So there's plenty of other things that you can look at too. So these questions are designed to help you reflect on areas of your childhood to try to help you uncover those limiting beliefs. So for me, my limiting belief in regards to this fear and this anxiety was that I am going to get seriously hurt or worse if I go outside on a really windy day. So step 2, once you've identified the beliefs that you want to change, you then want to challenge those beliefs. So you do this by asking yourself a couple of questions. The first is this belief 100% true? Like, can you actually say that this belief is 100% concrete true? Has there ever been a time where this belief wasn't true? So let's look at a different example. Let's say your belief was, I am bad at relationships. It's your job to find evidence that contradicts that belief. So think of moments in your life where you have been a really good friend, a good supportive daughter or son or sibling. The idea is for your brain to find counter evidence to whatever your limiting belief is. So step 3 is to replace it with a new thought. So this is when we get to start walking that new path through the field of flowers. If the old belief was, I'm not good at my job, replace it with, I'm always learning and improving. If the old thought was, money is really hard to make, rather than just straight up replacing it with, money is easy to make, because sometimes it's hard for us to just believe the complete opposite of what we were believing before. We want to kind of like gradually teach ourselves that money actually is easy to make. So you can replace that money is hard to make belief with something like, I can learn to manage my money more wisely, or I can learn different ways of making money, whatever relates to your specific belief. So the idea is that every time you notice yourself having these limiting beliefs or negative thoughts, when that voice in your head starts saying, actually, money is really hard to make, you just stop and say, no. And you talk back to that voice in your head and you say, actually, I can learn to manage my money more wisely, or I can learn to make money in a different way. And then you just rinse and repeat. And those new beliefs, that new neural pathway, the new path in the wildflowers will become stronger and stronger. And then eventually you'll just automatically start taking that new path through the wildflowers instead of the old one. Neuroscientists say that repeating new beliefs out loud in writing or even in your head literally rewires your brain. You are walking a new path in that mental field of flowers. And over time, that becomes your new reality. Life isn't determined by your past beliefs. It's determined by what you choose to believe from this moment forward. Today, I am grateful for you. I'd love to know, what are you grateful for today? Bye.